They're going to face off against Indiana tomorrow in the first game of a brutal stretch of Big Ten play. 3 of the next 5 games are on the road against teams that are ahead of the Badgers in the net rankings. That includes matchups at number 5, Illinois, against number 12, Michigan State, and hosting an Iowa team that's just 1 game back of Wisconsin in the standings. That tough stretch, one reason having this week off from playing games was so important. Badgers haven't played since last Saturday. The coach, Greg Gard, admitted it wasn't enough time to heal all the physical things that are bothering them.
I think we're in a good spot, but we're never going to be back to where we were in September, right? Because of the grind of these games and the physicality of it for everybody. Everybody deals with this. So it's like, again, you don't make it. If somebody is unable to go, then it's got next guy gets an opportunity to step up and keep playing. You don't make it any bigger than it needs to be.
Again, it'll be Wisconsin and Indiana tomorrow morning in Bloomington. Tip is slated for 11 a.m. Terry, the Bucks, they are back in action tonight as Indiana comes to Fiserv Forum. Comes the day after the team decided not to trade two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo. However, he is still out with a calf strain.
At a time when children are in crisis, the Kids Mental Health Foundation envisions a future where mental health is a vital part of growing up, and support starts with all of us. At home, at school, at practice, everywhere kids are. The Kids Mental Health Foundation is the leading organization promoting mental health for children in the U.S. and has free tools and information developed by experts.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Check out kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org to get started.
Well, we're less than a week out from pitchers and catchers reporting to spring training. Milwaukee's will hold their first workout next Thursday. Full team going to arrive for their first workout following Tuesday. First game of spring training just 15 days away. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Kyle.
One more day, Radio Row. We'll be out of here. We're live in San Francisco. 2 more hours. We're at the Moscone Center. Thanks to Flipside Pub and Grill. They've had us here all week. They always take the show on the road. And Friday would be a great night to get down there for a fish fry. They're food and fun without the franchise. Just across from Menards on La Crosse's north side. Very easy to get there. Perfect spot to begin the weekend with a fish fry, or maybe go in early tomorrow. Get Super Bowl weekend kicked off right. Have some drinks. Have some breakfast. We appreciate their support. Sending us down. And one more show tonight. We have one confirmed guest. Mike Felger from 98.5 The Sports Hub is going to join us just after 5. He gets off the air at 5 Central, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. I've just figured out the time zone things. Well, not really. In fact, I just got a text from Ryan Wood, and thank goodness. He said, hey, am I on with you today? I said, Ryan, thank you for texting me because I forgot to let you know. Can't have you on this week. We will get back to Ryan Wood's weekly Packers appearances starting next week. So we will not have him tonight. Mike Felger, Milwaukee guy, fan of Wisconsin sports, a local sports talk titan out in Boston. He was on last year, and it'll be really fun to have him on just after 5 o'clock your time. 3 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock his time. Have I made my point? Tyler Dunn is bumming around, and he's upstairs. He's working on a story. He was on with Bill earlier today, and I said, hey, if you have time, swing down. I'll have you on. He texted me a little bit ago that he's caught up in a story. I'm really not 100% sure. If he shows up, awesome. I love Tyler. It'd be great to talk with him. And if not, again, he was on with Bill, and you should definitely go check out that story and that conversation in Bill's podcast or on his live stream from earlier today. Things are starting to wind down in the building. They're starting to calm down a little bit. And come on, not fast enough. Some of these people need to get the heck out of here. I think I'm a little different. I was talking about this with Kate, who helps produce Bill's show and is on the morning show. He's helping out on this show as well. I was talking to her earlier this afternoon. Like, the celebrity thing is cool. I don't need the pomp and circumstance. I think I enjoy the combine because it's all like sports nerdy people, broadcasters, reporters. I don't need, respectfully, the C or D list celebrities, and I am no celebrity, so I'm not judging. But like, okay, the Workaholics guys are here. And it is nice to see the Workaholic. I relate a lot to the Workaholics guys because I was a workaholic myself for a long time. I was helplessly addicted to workahol. It's a Norm Macdonald joke. No, the Workaholics guys were literally right back here at the Fox Sports stage, though. And some guy from Shameless. What's his name? William H. Macy. I know him better, of course, from his smash hit with John Travolta and Tim Allen, Wild Hogs. back in the day, so I know he was in Shameless, but I saw him. How hilarious would it be to have him on just to talk about freaking, hey man, can we talk about wild hogs? Remember when you played Slap the Bull? You're like, you got to be kidding me. It was such. So Radio Row, again, a little bit of a recap of what's going on as the week starts to wind down. Let's begin with a Super Bowl thought and then a thought on the NFL season as a whole. The title of the live stream is 2025 NFL Takeaways. If you're watching, you can see that title. I started to reminisce a little bit today and reflect, what did we learn this NFL season? What were some of the takeaways? What are we smarter about? What are we better educated about? What do we have a better grasp of going into this offseason than maybe we had coming into this season? And sports can be so trendy and they can be so fickle. So just because something is true one season doesn't make it true the next season or the next season, the next season. I think sports are often cyclical. Sometimes you'll see, big market teams winning. Sometimes you'll see small market, offensive teams, defensive teams. It's cyclical. It goes back and forth. I think the biggest takeaway from this year, and something that I really enjoyed about this season, and it's certainly a big part of the Super Bowl that we're about to watch Sunday, is the star quarterbacks, for the most part, took a step back this year. I think in the AFC, for the better part of now almost a decade, it's had to have felt pretty helpless for a lot of the teams. If you didn't have Mahomes, you felt like you were up against it. And if you didn't have Burrow or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, you felt like, what are we even doing? What shot does our team even have? If Josh Allen, who's unbelievable, and Lamar Jackson, who's an icon and a multi-time MVP and unbelievable, and Joe Burrow, who's a proven killer and a Super Bowl qualifier, if those teams and those quarterbacks can't consistently be in the mix in the AFC and qualify for Super Bowls, well, if my quarterback's Trevor Lawrence or CJ Stroud or who, what are we even doing here? Imagine how helpless that would have felt. And this year, Joe Burrow misses the playoffs entirely. Part of that was because he was injured, but still. The Ravens missed the playoffs entirely. Josh Allen gets there when Patrick Mahomes is not there because the Chiefs missed the playoffs entirely. And Josh Allen still can't get over the hump because he loses to Bo Nix, who everyone is thought and talked about as a passenger on that bus, a bus rider and not a bus driver. We talked about this with Marshall Newhouse yesterday. Or no, it was TJ Ward. He said, look, I'm not the world's biggest Bo Nix fan. I'm no Colin Cowherd, who's always talking about Bo Nix and hyping Bo Nix up from day one since he came out of Oregon. I'm not the world's biggest Bo Nix fan. But I watched a bunch of Broncos games this year. They were in primetime a lot. They had a lot of comebacks. They had a lot of last-minute wins. They had a lot of big drives. They had a lot of games where Bo Nix had to do a good amount. Bo Nix had to ball against the Packers for them to win that game. He had to play really, really, really well. Some of the best quarterback play I saw all year was Bo Nix against the Packers. So I think one of my takeaways from this season, and I think it should be exciting, and I think it should be a point of optimism and a point of maybe inspiration moving forward for a lot of fan bases and for a lot of teams. You can make the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold. You can make the Super Bowl with Drake May in his second year. And I think Drake May is a stud. But no one before the season thought that he would be qualifying for the Super Bowl over Mahomes, Burrow, Allen Jackson, or Justin Herbert, who I hadn't even mentioned yet, who's, I don't think, on the same tier as those top guys. Well, actually, I know he's not on the same tier as those top guys, but I think he's still considered pretty darn good by most. I think he's solid. I think he's fine. I think he's good. I don't know that he's great, but you get my point. It should be exciting for a lot of fan bases. It's like, well, we don't have Mahomes. We don't have the once-in-a-lifetime prime Aaron Rodgers, prime Peyton Manning, prime Tom Brady. We don't have that guy. But if we play our cards right, and you draft well and you coach well, you can make the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold. You can make the Super Bowl with Drake May in his second year. You can make the Super Bowl with Bo Nix, because I think had Bo Nix been healthy, we'd probably be talking about a Seahawks-Broncos Super Bowl. That's nothing against the Patriots. That's just the way that it went. Not Josh Allen, not Lamar Jackson, not Justin Herbert, not Joe Burrow, not Patrick Mahomes. And Matthew Stafford, I suppose, got close, but still lost to a quarterback who is not nearly as not nearly as decorated. I mean, it's Sam Darnold. I just think that should be really exciting for a lot of fan bases. A lot of people who cover the league. It's good. It's a good story. I don't like the idea of a league that's just haves and have-nots. You have 5 or 6 teams with really good quarterbacks, and then there's everyone else who's just kind of waiting their turn for the stud quarterback in their division to get hurt. They're waiting for the perfect offensive coordinator, quarterback salary cap situation where it all comes together, right? Quarterback on a rookie deal. We're waiting for our once in a decade, once in a 20-year situation. Like, this season and the way that it played out should have a lot of folks excited. And I think it makes for compelling storylines too. I've told you this about the Seahawks. I think they're really entertaining. I think the way John Schneider has built that team and operated is a huge net positive for the NFL, because John Schneider, going back to the end of the Russell Wilson era, has made lots of moves that people thought were stupid. Why are you're getting rid of Russell Wilson in his prime? Right? You fire the coach. Get rid of the GM. If Russell Wilson doesn't see eye to eye with the coach or the GM, you get rid of the other guys. You don't get rid of Russell Wilson. They move off of him, and it's brilliant. And Geno Smith is pretty darn good. And then they move off of Geno Smith, all to go pay Sam Darnold. And everyone's like, well, what are you doing? You're paying more money to not even upgrade. I mean, Sam Darnold, did you see what he just did in the playoffs? Did you see how bad he was against the Rams and the Lions at the end of the year for the Vikings? Did you see? And it's worked brilliantly. And Geno Smith has gone to the Raiders and absolutely stunk. He looked like a complete and total product of the Seahawks and their building and their enclosure and that coaching staff and that cult, the whole thing. I love when teams and general managers and owners do things a little unconventional, do things a little differently, and everyone says, what are you doing? That's so stupid. And then it works. That's entertaining. That's good. That's juicy. And I think the day that we get to a point in the NFL, and I've said this before, so sorry to repeat, but the day we get to a spot in the NFL where every team is operating the exact same and using the exact same budget and drafting the exact same way and using the same spreadsheets for the value on this and that and this player and this position group, then it's not interesting anymore. Then the teams aren't run by characters with personalities that may or may not fit their team and their market and their city. That's character. That's where good stories come from. We can talk about John Schneider's decision making versus Les Snead or versus whoever. That's juicy to me. That's entertaining. If it becomes the NBA or if it becomes baseball, where a lot of teams are just, here's the spreadsheet, here's what we value, we don't pay any more for this or for that or the other thing, and we're just gonna operate the same as that team, the same as the other team, and all the general managers went to the same college, used the same programs, adopted the same line of thing. Well, that's not interesting anymore. Then you might as well just play with spreadsheets. You might as well play with Microsoft Excel. And the Seahawks, and I think the Patriots as well. Mike Vrabel, a very good example in both teams, both instances of coaches and general managers and organizations that do things a little bit differently from this team, that team, or the other team. That's entertaining. That's juicy to me. And I'm glad that we don't have two teams in the Super Bowl who are star quarterbacks surrounded by nothing else. I'm glad that they've done things a little differently and made some moves that people second-guessed or people hated. People hated the Sam Darnold signing. And look at him now. Mina Kimes, most notably, she's a Seahawks fan. I think she's a really good NFL analyst. We're all wrong about things. She was very wrong about, she said, I don't get the Sam Darnold thing. Stephen Ruiz writes for The Ringer, always hyping up and talking about how good Geno Smith is. A lot of people got this one wrong. And it's pretty interesting. It's entertaining to me as a talk show host, someone who's got to find entertaining angles and juicy things. It's great for business for me and for everyone here at Radio Row that the Seahawks are there. I think it's great. A quick preliminary thought on the Super Bowl. Not to pat myself on the back. I nailed the game to the cross last year when we were making our picks, when we were on Bill's show and just out to dinner or whatever, kind of giving our thoughts on the game. The line of thinking was for Eagles and for Chiefs last year. Well, the Eagles are so loaded, man. They got all this talent. But you know what? The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. And if you got Patrick Mahomes, you got a chance. You know, that thing. That was the line of every interview you did. You would ask every guest, hey, who do you like in the game on Sunday? Who do you think's going to win? Give me a prediction for the Super Bowl. Everyone would say that. Well, the Eagles have all the talent, man. That defense is great. And that running game and Saquon Barkley. But the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. And that was the thing. That was That was it. Now, most people who I've who we've interviewed and we've had, and most interviews that I've listened to, not even on this show or on Bill's show, I think the Seahawks are going to win. You know, they're more talented, their defense, their coaching, and the Patriots are young, and the Patriots didn't play a murderer's row of a schedule. Maybe they weren't battle tested, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? But the caveat to this Super Bowl is the opposite of the caveat to last year's Super Bowl. Instead of, but the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, it's, but Sam Darnold could be Sam Darnold. He could turn back into a pumpkin. He could, revert to that. And Sam Darnold could play poorly. But I think Sam Darnold is being done a little dirty. He's being talked about like he's the only quarterback in the league who hasn't had bad games. He's getting discussed like he's the only quarterback in football who maybe is due for a couple of turnovers in a playoff game. Did you watch Justin Herbert, who everybody loves? Did you watch CJ Stroud, who fewer people love, but has had success in the NFL? Just turning the ball over everywhere. Did you watch Josh Allen, who's unbelievable and an MVP and great? He turned the ball over, was it 4 times in Denver, including that fumble at the end of the half that turned out to be the difference because game goes to overtime. He just throws the ball away. He just throws it on the ground, throws it on the grass. I know Sam Darnold has never won an MVP, and I know he's never been the player that Josh Allen has been, or he's never been the player that Matthew Stafford, but all of these guys have had bad games and bad moments, and yet Sam Darnold is the only player, but he could turn into Sam Darnold. He could be. I think if Sam Darnold has a bad game in the Super Bowl, it'll be a bad game, just like Josh Allen had a bad game, or just like Justin Herbert had a bad game, or just like Matthew Stafford occasionally has bad games where he turns the ball over a couple of times. It happens. And I think we're being a little unfair to Sam Darnold. I don't remember. A guest brought this up this week. I don't remember who it is or who it was. Maybe it was Marshall Newhouse. Talked about Sam Darnold and the potential that he could turn the ball over a couple of times, and that could be the difference. That gives New England an opportunity to maybe steal this game, even though they're underdogs. And whatever guest it was, maybe it was one of the Sumer guys, went out of their way to say, and when I say this about Sam Darnold, I don't mean turn into a pumpkin or start seeing ghosts. I mean, he could just have a bad game against a New England defense that's really good. That defensive line is nasty. That's a good pass rush. Milton Williams is a stud. Marcus Jones and Christian Gonzalez, those are some really instinctual defensive backs who could force turnovers, right? So the caveat this year is the opposite of last year's caveat. Instead of, but the other team has Patrick Mahomes, it's, well, we like the Seahawks, but they have Sam Darnold. I think we're being a little unfair. Sam Darnold, at this point, seeing what we've seen this last year in Seattle, and even for long stretches, winning 14 games in Minnesota last year, I think Sam Darnold has earned the right and has graduated from pumpkin watch to maybe he just doesn't play his best game. And I don't have to tell you that Aaron Rodgers didn't always play his best games in postseason matchups. Josh Allen had 4 turnovers 3 weeks ago. It can happen to even the best quarterback. So, of course, it could happen to Sam Darnold. But I'm telling you, it could happen to Sam Darnold for the same reason it could happen to anybody else. And I just want to make, I think that's the breakdown of this game. I'm not on pumpkin watch. I'm just on, can the Patriots play well and get Sam Darnold to make enough mistakes to where the talent disparity, and that's reflected in the point spread, where the Patriots are able to steal a game in which they're an underdog. I think that's the framing. And we can continue to kind of pick apart this game and talk about some individual matchups as the show continues. We're live here at Radio Row. Thanks to Flipside Pub and Grill on La Crosse's north side. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. We'll continue our Super Bowl discussion.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
All right, welcome back. Final day here on Radio Row in San Francisco. Bill had a loaded show earlier today, so I recommend going back, picking through the podcast and the live stream. Amon Green, they did like a half hour, former Packer. I love when he's on Radio Row, so that was great. Would recommend Mike Felger, 98.5 The Sports Hub's going to be here in the last hour of the show. I always love when he stops by, but right now we have a high-ranking member of the NFL from New York, from Park Avenue. It's Mackenzie Herzog, who's originally from Manitowoc, you said, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. We have some listeners in Manitowoc, an affiliate up there. And you are a VP, Strategic Innovation, but you do health and safety. So this is probably been a big year for you. There's been a lot of really big-time injuries. The Packers had a bunch. So you and all of your time with the league have probably seen lots of cycles. Is it maybe overrated or overplayed how many individual injuries there were this year to big star players?
Yeah, I mean, I think every team, you know, especially as a fan, you feel the injuries that happen to your team. This year, across the league, though, really, we saw a stable number of injuries and games missed due to injury this year. So we're at sort of a new normal in terms of the work that we've been doing in terms of injury reduction. So we haven't seen a change across the board. That doesn't mean that fans don't feel it when it's their player that they're watching on their team.
Yeah, or when there's 2 or 3 big ones on one Sunday, and then the shows are talking about. So I completely believe and wouldn't even need to see the numbers that I bet it was stable. But when they all hit in like a 1 or 2 week span, when there's a big quarterback, or certainly, you know, the Packers lost a couple of their big players as well. Something that people talk about a lot is turf versus grass. And the league does always talk about how the injury rates between those two are stable too. But when players talk about it, it doesn't feel that way. So can we talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So from a player health and safety perspective, we looked at this for a number of years and we haven't seen a difference in injury rates on synthetic versus natural. But we do hear from players that they feel differently. And we think there's something to that you feel differently when you stand on synthetic versus natural. And that's important too. So while we haven't seen anything from an injury perspective, it is a high priority for us to look at surface consistency and understanding how we can improve the surfaces across the board, whether that's grass or synthetic. And so we actually designed new equipment that can now test what we think players are feeling. And that is, we call it energy restitution. It's kind of a big word, but it's essentially how the turf returns energy to the body when they're playing on the field. And so now we have tools available that can actually test this. And we're using that to improve surfaces across the board to try to get them to a place where they feel consistent when they're going, whatever stadium they're going to.
Well, and it's not just as simple as grass versus turf, because I know, you know, Mike Clemens, our Packers reporter, is here. Detroit is a surface that the Packers play on a lot. I hear it compared by players, Detroit, Ford Field, and MetLife, as turf, but turf that's like firmer. Like there's less underneath the turf.
Yeah.
So probably returns that energy to the players a little bit faster. So MetLife is one of those, Detroit. But those are older stadiums as well. The newer ones, like what kind of new surfaces? Because all these, they want to host concerts, they want to do things. So what are some of the advancements or things you look at in some of the new turf stadiums?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that we're looking at is how can we test what players and put into action what players feel when they're on game day? And really, how can we get to a point where all 30 stadiums feel similarly and respond similarly?
Sure.
Synthetic is interesting because it actually, you can get more consistency with synthetic. You're not dealing with the weather and other things like that compared to grass. And so for us, the focus is across the board on grass and synthetic, trying to get to that place where we feel some consistency across the board.
Mackenzie Herzog is here. She's with Health and Safety, a VP with the NFL. The Guardian caps, I think it's something that I don't know. You have a lot of fun with it on sports talk television or radio because they're big and they're obvious. Like Romeo Dobbs's Guardian cap with the Packers has like almost become a little bit of a meme. What have you heard from players? Because some guys seem to like them. Other guys have seemed skeptical. Like we're just kind of figuring out how players feel about those and how they work.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Guardian cap was introduced a couple of years ago. Actually, interestingly, the reason we introduced it was for head impact reduction. We didn't expect there to be a reduction in the number of concussions because of the Guardian cap. That wasn't our original intent. It was to introduce it during training camp when we knew there was a lot of contact practices happening to mitigate the forces that were felt to the head. And to our surprise, we actually saw a reduction in the number of concussions in that high density period of contact in training camp. We had a 50% reduction in the number of concussions occurring after the Guardian cap was mandated in those practices. And so that's something we're really pleased with. We know that there's some benefit with wearing the Guardian cap, and we've now given players the option to wear that in games as well. But most importantly, now our helmets, our best performing helmets that are on the field, they actually perform as well as or better than a regular helmet plus a Guardian cap. And so we've really encouraged players to get into those top performing helmets because they give you that same head impact reduction in that best performing helmet. And of course, putting a Guardian cap on top of it doesn't hurt. It's something that we welcome them to do, but really we find it more important that they get into those top performing helmets that have that best technology built in.
And do you ever have to battle with older players as maybe their helmets that they've used forever have been phased out? Or you want to encourage them to use something new? I would imagine that could be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, so the way that this works is we have this helmet poster and it's ranked red, yellow, green.
Excellent.
Very easy to follow. You can use the stoplight signal. The red can't wear them on field. Yellow are sort of on their way out, and green are the ones that we want them to be in.
Sure.
That bar for green and yellow and red changes each year as technology gets better and as our testing gets better and the helmets on field get better. We kind of say you can liken it to a car. A car now has different features and different bells and whistles than it did 10 years ago. And that's true with our helmets too. But what that means is if you've been in a league a while, you've gone through that transition where the helmet you were wearing may now be prohibited, and that you sort of continue to push players into different helmets. So yes, it is a challenge. We all know that we like the things that we've been using, but we've found the players to be very receptive to data and to evidence. And when we show them that we can correlate our laboratory testing of these helmets to on-field concussion risk, they've been very willing to move into those top performing helmets. In fact, last year, a player told us when we showed them new data of concussion risk for these different helmet groupings, they said, of course, seeing this, I want to be in that top performing helmet. Why wouldn't I be in that top performing helmet? So they've been very receptive, but yeah, it's hard to change ways over time.
What involvement, if any, do you and your folks have in international games, the travel and any additional challenges that might come with those types of games?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for us, our game day medical operations is a top priority. We want the field to be the safest place that a player can be. And that is true whether we're domestic or international. And so for us, we put a lot of focus on ensuring that we have the same high quality of medical care available internationally that we would in any of our games that happen domestically. So we have a whole team that's dedicated towards that, and really a robust program to make sure that we have systems in place, emergency action plans in place, so that something happens international, we can attend to it and it's as safe as it would be in the U.S.
Flight time, jet lag, other than okay, so someone busts your leg, you want the doctors there.
Of course.
Yes. the little things that are maybe separate from actually the game itself. Is that something that the league because you hear the teams talk about that stuff all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. So I oversee our research and innovation portfolio, and that's something that we've looked at is we want to look at anything that could potentially reduce injury risk or identify areas that maybe there's increased injury risk. And so for a number of years, we've looked at how international travel, how travel time, how your body clock time in terms of what the time zone is might influence injury risk. We haven't seen a difference in injury rate in international games, not in the games when they're played internationally or after when they're coming back and sort of going back to their normal schedule. We haven't seen that be a factor in terms of injury risk. But again, I think that the other half of injury risk is performance. And so we want the teams to be able to play at their top. We want them to feel good too. And so we do a lot with understanding how teams who have managed those international trips have done that and what are the best practices that we can learn and share to others who are going to be traveling internationally as well.
Yeah, Mackenzie Herzog, I appreciate your time. Quite a difference between New York City, Park Avenue, and Sheboygan. I don't know what's the main drag in Sheboygan. I don't even know.
I grew up in Manitowoc.
Oh, yeah, Manitowoc.
And yeah, it is quite a difference, the small town feel versus the big city bustle. But it's been great being in New York. And I'm very fortunate that our team and player health and safety is very Wisconsin heavy. We actually, several of us are from Wisconsin. And so I feel right at home in the player health and safety department.
Do you think a Packers passion from those folks that led them there? Or?
I mean, when you grow up in that area and the football is all around, it is something that I grew up with. It's such a unique team, and being such a hometown team and a community feel to the team, it's hard not to be passionate about football there. So I can't imagine that wasn't part of it.
Yeah, I like that. Well, enjoy the festivities this weekend. Appreciate the time. Feel like we learned a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Mackenzie Herzog, we're going to take a quick break, come back, and we'll get back into talk about the Super Bowl matchup. Thanks. We'll be right back.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Wisco Sports Show, last couple of segments of, first hour of tonight's show, presented by Flipside Pub and Grill, live here at Radio Row in San Francisco. Appreciate Mackenzie Herzog of the NFL. She's a VP. She works on Park Avenue. And I was interested to see exactly where that interview was going to go, because Mike Clemens has known her and has known Zach, who's here, who's been with the NFL and with the league. And I got a text from Mike this afternoon and said, hey, Zach's got someone from the league here to talk about health and safety. Are you all booked up tonight? And I told Mike, yes, I have no room, because I didn't really want any more guests, because I don't really like guests that much, which makes Radio Row kind of hilarious, but that's secondary. And then I got a text in a group chat with Mike and Zach saying, hey, Zach, here's Grant's number. He says he has availability tonight, which is the explicit opposite of what I said. But whatever. Okay. Meet someone new, especially knowing that she's from Wisconsin, Manitowoc. Yes, I know I said Sheboygan. My bad. Hop off for those of you in the chat. I misspoke. I understand they're different, but at least I didn't say Two Rivers. Whatever. Little Eastern Wisconsin humor. So I didn't exactly know where that conversation was going to go. It was clear to me in the first 15 seconds that it's like, oh, yeah, we got a VP here. Like, you hear her deliver those talking points. That was, I could almost see Roger Goodell. I could almost see, I closed my eyes. I could almost hear Roger Goodell. And the first thing I asked her was, there were a lot of injuries in the NFL this year. And at first blush, you think, well, first Packers, Micah Parsons, and Devontae Wyatt and Tucker Kraft. But then Patrick Mahomes goes down. Lamar Jackson goes down. George Kittle, who is here on a scooter today, goes down. You know, a bunch of the 49ers. Of course, this is a huge year for injuries in the NFL. And she goes, well, if you take a look at the data, it was actually right, you know, down the middle of the, which is probably true. But again, that's, you know, that's how the league presents it. That's how the Shield presents it. And listening to her talk about surfaces as well, it's interesting because the league has told us repeatedly there's no difference in injury rates between turf and between grass. I would like to see the injury rates of stadiums that are thought to have worse turf, lesser turf, and better turf. And she talked about that, the difference in, you know, responsive, you know, reactivity of the turf. I think MetLife and Ford Field are thought to have really, really, basically, it's how players describe it is it's a parking lot with a carpet rolled over it. That's how it feels. That's what it's like. And then there's newer stadiums that a little bit more techy in the way that the grass and the turf might be a little bit more soft, maybe more forgiving for players. I would love to see the difference in injury rates between, say, Ford Field and the Falcons Stadium or SoFi, right, which is newer, which isn't MetLife or Ford Field, and that it's like a parking lot with turf rolled over it with that Astro turf that, you know, your grandma has in her screened-in porch from a house that was built in the 60s, you know, that type of thing. The Guardian Caps was interesting. It was never meant to prevent concussions, which, by the way, there are some interesting parallels there to public health conversations that we've had in the last 5 or 6 years, but we don't need to get into that. She said, well, they were never meant to prevent concussions, because I think that's the defense. Well, people still get concussed when they wear them. And then the league says, well, they never meant to prevent concussions. It was more just for repeated blows to the head. It would be like wearing sparring gear. That would be the logic. Like, if we're going to spar, let's just save our melon some knocks in practice. So, we're not racking up contact. We're not racking up hits when we're just sparring in the rings. We're going to wear some headgear, maybe a little bit more padding. Kind of the same idea in practice. But what she said, and she would have the numbers, she's a VP in health and safety in the league, is that it actually has prevented concussions, which is interesting. And some players, they must trust it. They must like it or feel that it works, because you have the players that wear them, Savion Williams and Romeo Dobbs and all these guys who are kind of known as guardian cap guys. I had a text here. This made me laugh over the break. And you can reach out and be a part of the show, 608-321-1670. Says, I think she's full of crap about the injuries. Every time the Packers quarterback has gone across the pond, they come back hurt for some reason. Well, I'm just trying to think. That's a pretty small sample, man. So that's Aaron Rodgers in London in 2022, when he basically jammed his thumb trying to throw a Hail Mary, right? He bashed his finger or bashed his wrist. That really doesn't have anything to do with the locale of the game. Jordan Love getting his knee banged up because he was tackled awkwardly and hit from a couple different directions. I suppose that's a thing, but that has nothing to do with the locale. The thing is the turf in Brazil sucked, and players on both sides talked about it. The grass was slippery and guys were sliding. Like, it wasn't a watchable, gradable, evaluatable football game because the surface was so slick. So you could talk about the surface. When I asked her about international games, I was more interested in long flights, time changes, even a long time being in a pressurized cabin. Like, how is that affecting players in a way that it maybe wouldn't if they were just flying from New York to LA, Miami to Seattle, Houston to San Francisco, that sort of thing. So interesting conversation. Again, Mackenzie Herzog, appreciate her time, and appreciate if some of you are like, I don't like this guest this week. Well, just hang with me. That's kind of Radio Row. You never know what you get. And sometimes stumbling. I remember a couple of years ago in Vegas, one of my favorite guests on the show ever, when Brittany brought us Steve Avila, who's a lineman for the Rams, still plays guard, really good player. Knew nothing about him. Didn't even know how to pronounce his name. We talked for 10 or 12 minutes. It was one of the most fun interviews I've ever had on the show. So you just don't know. And we'll have another in hour number 2. Mike Felger, 98.5 The Sports Hub's going to be back after being here last year. I was giving you some thoughts on Sam Darnold before we had Mackenzie on in our opening segment, and I can't remember if it was Sam Brookhouse. I don't think it was Sean Syed, so it must have either been Sam. It might have been Solomon Wilcots, who earlier this week said, so Sam Darnold might not be a guy that you trust to come in and play flawless football. A lot of folks are concerned, well, the Seahawks are better and they're favorites and they're more talented and the defense is better. But what about the quarterback, Sam Darnold, right? Like, what about that? What if he turns into Sam Darnold? What if he turns into a pumpkin? And it was either Solomon or Sam earlier this week who made the point to say, the concern about Sam Darnold turning the ball over it has nothing to do with his time with the Jets. It has nothing with him, to do with him turning into a pumpkin. It has nothing to do with all that. It just means he might not play well. He might turn the ball over a couple of times, and that would be the end. That would be the Patriots. Can the Patriots make him uncomfortable and speed him up, not in a way where they're turning him back into a pumpkin, but in the same way that they would speed up any other quarterback, Justin Herbert or Aaron Rodgers or whoever? And I think that from some real ethical sports talkers this week, Greg Cosell, who was on with Bill earlier today, would probably talk about this. I think Solomon Wilcots, who corrected me at a party last night when I said, I don't know that anyone really wanted the Browns job. He's like, well, what do you mean? A bunch of guys apply. Like, what do you mean by that? And kind of corrected. We hashed that out. Like, he didn't like that take. And I said, well, a couple candidates withdrew their names. He's like, yeah, after they knew they weren't going to get it. Okay, so interesting. So when I say ethical sports talkers would give Sam Darnold credit and be like, yes, there's a chance that the Patriots defense speeds him up, turns him over, and that's the difference in this game. But that would be no different than the Patriots speeding up Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Justin Herbert or CJ Stroud. I think that Sam Darnold has now earned the right to be thought of on a level playing field. Maybe not with Matthew Stafford, although guess what, folks? Matthew Stafford is good for a couple of boneheaded picks every few weeks too. He's a guy who's fast and loose with the ball. Josh Allen, who's brilliant, 4 turnovers in Denver. So I have a hard time seeing some of these other quarterbacks who we think the world of play poorly in the postseason. And it's like, well, Josh Allen had a bad game. But if Sam Darnold comes in and the Patriots do a really good job confusing him, moving guys around, Milton Williams and Caleb Chase on and all those guys on that front, Christian Ellis, who's hitting really hard. Like if those guys speed him up and turn him over, we think of it as, well, Sam Darnold seeing ghosts and, he turned back into a pumpkin. When I think the seeing ghosts thing, can we all agree that the Jets kind of suck? Can we all agree that probably was a nightmare scenario for a young court? Can we all agree on that? Aaron Rodgers went there and they looked helpless. They looked worthless. And Sam Darnold was a rookie, supposed to come in and look good. So I'm to the point now where I'm kind of done holding some of those early games, and you should be too, in my opinion. I'm kind of done holding those things against Sam Darnold. But that is, I think, the thing that is going to define this game. It's the opposite of last year. It's the opposite of the spin from last year where people said, well, the Eagles are better and that defense is nasty and the Eagles can run the ball and they're more talented and they're really good. They're legit. But the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. This year, it's the inverse. It's the opposite. The Seahawks are better. They're more talented. They're favored for a reason. They were the 1 seed. They beat better teams on their way to the Super Bowl than the Patriots did. But if Sam Darnold turns the ball over a couple of times, well, then there's your difference. It's the opposite of Patrick Mahomes last year and the way we viewed last year's game. I also don't think Drake May has played all that well the last month in the playoffs. He's been pretty poor. And I guess I haven't listened to a ton of coverage outside of what Bill has done this week. I have not listened to, guys, I haven't been watching First Take and Get Up. Sorry. we get here in the morning and we start setting up and Bill's got his iPad out and he's watching Get Up. And I think some of that is, on trade deadline day, there could have been Giannis news and Bill was wanting to see what they're saying about Giannis. But also, I am not throwing Get Up on in the morning. I don't know what they're saying, but I feel like all the coverage is Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold. What if he plays poorly? What if he plays poorly? When the conversation could just as easily be, and maybe should be, Drake May has been playing poorly. He has been bad. He's put the ball on the ground a ton and he's thrown interceptions. And he probably got a little lucky against Houston that they recovered some of those fumbles. He probably got a little lucky in Denver that early pass that went right into the breadbasket of Hufanga wasn't intercepted and it wasn't a pick six. It was broken up by Stephon Diggs. I think they've been, I don't know. I think they've been a little fortunate. Drake May's been a little fortunate that his bad play hasn't cost them a playoff game. Sam Darnold's been better in this postseason. Sam Darnold has had to go toe-to-toe and win duels with Matthew Stafford now. He has not been a passenger, like I think a lot of people have described. He hasn't been a bus rider. He's quite literally for this team been a bus driver at times. In huge moments, in playoff games, or in regular season games where seeding is on the line, where the division and the 1 seed and, not the definitive path to the Super Bowl, but that, was it a Thursday night game between the Rams and the Seahawks? That game, who basically decided who's going to win the West and who's going to be the 1 seed, that kind of decided the thing. Because the rematch, the NFC Championship game was in Seattle. It comes down to the wire, and who wins? The Seahawks, the team at home in that environment. And Sam Darnold's had to perform really well and be a bus driver in those games and not just a passenger who is dragged along by a running game and a defense. So those are some of my thoughts on the Super Bowl. By the way, last year, I did not to pat myself on the back. I predicted that thing start to finish. I said, I feel like this is going to be Buccaneers Chiefs 2.0. The Chiefs can't protect. The Eagles pass rush just doesn't let Patrick Mahomes play football. And Patrick Mahomes is their win con. That was the only path last year, right? It's like, well, the Eagles are better, but Patrick Mahomes. It's like, well, if Patrick Mahomes doesn't get to play football, if the Eagles defense harasses him and just doesn't let him play football, well, then the game's over. And it was over, by the way, in the first quarter. May I help you, Kate? Are you looking for anything? Oh, Kate's jumping on the live stream. Text final segment of the first hour coming up next in a few minutes. Thanks to Flipside Pub and Grill, 608-321-1670. I'm starting to think about what I'm going to get for dinner. I wish I could get a fish fry out here. Might have to settle for something West Coast, ceviche or oyster. I do love oysters, but I wish I could have a Flipside fish fry. Or even a chicken dinner, as it's not Lent yet. My Catholic faith would allow me to eat chicken tonight. All right, I'm done thinking out loud. Thanks to Flipside for sponsoring the show. I'll get to some of your texts and wrap up the first hour coming up next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Let's go Sports Show. Last couple minutes here in hour number 1. Thanks to Flipside Pub and Grill for sending us out here, sponsoring all of our shows this week, all of our guests, all of our fine interviews. We'll have one more in the last hour here in about 15 minutes. Mike Felger, who was with us last year, 98.5 The Sports Hub, the big stick out in Boston. I love the show. He's a Milwaukee guy. So I'm always like, hey, you want to talk about your Wisconsin teams? Let's hear some of that East Coast anger directed at some of our Wisconsin teams. So we'll get to that in about 15 minutes here. Your texts are welcome. I can't take your calls, but I can take your texts. 608-321-1670. Appreciate all of you that joined in. Jim in Cottage Grove, Rick and Spencer. Yeah, we did have a guest from the NFL from Park Avenue to talk about injuries and health and safety, and she delivered those lines, those talking points, like Roger Goodell would have a tear in his eye. And it was good. It was interesting. But that's a veil that you're not gonna pierce. For those of you who are like, she's full of it on here, it's like, oh no, it's not that she's full of it. It's that's coming from directly from the top. It's a VP of the NFL delivering the information that has been collected, and we've heard Goodell and the league come out and talk about this. There's no difference in injury rates between turf and grass. I think part of that is not all turf, not all grass is created equal. So maybe if you were to parse it out a little bit more specifically, you'd find some differences. Who's to say? I don't know. The international travel stuff was interesting too. And then she said, well, of course, we send our medical teams with, and, we always want to be there if there's injuries. Sure. Yes, of course. I was more interested in the long flights and, the body clock and that thing. But if the NFL can avoid mechanical injuries and get the games played, like I think these money-making opportunities now, it's pretty undeniable. They announced they're going to do a game in Melbourne. They're going to do a game in Rio now, I think, which would make it I don't have this incorrect. That would be the second game not in Brazil. Where did the Packers play? I thought the Packers played in Rio, but then why did I see an announcement about the first ever game in Rio? Or maybe I'm misremembering the city. Whatever. We have plenty of time to complain about international games come the offseason. Another thing that I noticed today, just to pick at this and to build on our Giannis conversation from yesterday, I was in the bathroom upstairs. I was scrolling Instagram because I was wasting time before the show, just waiting for 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock my time. Again, you get the point. And I was scrolling Instagram, and Giannis made a post. Nice little picture, black and white. Says, everyone is online. The internet is full of opinions. I decided it was time to make some of my own. Today, I'm joining Kelce as a shareholder. We all on Kelce now. Giannis Antetokounmpo. I hate this stuff. So Kelce is like, I guess, an extension of sports betting, the prediction markets. There's a lot of money in the prediction markets now, and I despise it. It's one thing you want to bet one football team to win. Okay. You want to bet like how long a presidential press conference is. Like, why do we? Sure, we can. I suppose there's nothing wrong with that. There's complications or things that stem from that. But do we need to bet on all of these things? Bet on Giannis's next destination. Bet on the friggin' weather and how much rain we're gonna. We don't need all of these things. And I gotta say, it's a little shady, and at the very least, it's really annoying that there's Giannis speculation for months. Is he gonna stay in Milwaukee? Is he gonna go somewhere else? Is he gonna end up? Giannis doesn't really contribute to any of it. Simply says, I'm at the mercy of my team. I'm not in control. I just listen to my agents. I play basketball where I'm told to play basketball. And then he's not traded. And the day after he's not traded, we get an announcement that he's partnering with the largest broker of the prediction market currently. I don't like it. It smells. And it's gross. It's just another one of these newfangled conventions that I just don't like. AI. It's like, oh God, we're just giving away our humanity. Prediction markets, just rife with opportunity for people to take advantage of this and that and manipulate this and that. I did ride, however, in a Waymo last night. And normally I would hate that because, again, I don't like AI. I don't like giving away our human agency. I think it's disgusting. But those things might kind of rule. You could hook up your phone and blast music really loud. We were playing Blake Shelton. Ruled. It's awesome. And you could, I don't know if you're supposed to bring beverages in the back. I'm not saying confirming or denying whether or not we did. I'm just saying maybe it could have happened possibly. That's all I'm saying. So I'm in on the Waymos, out on AI. I don't know if AI is involved in the Waymos, but that's got to be like a noble use of AI. Those things are fun to ride around in. And I might, after we tear down the set, I might go Waymoing around town. I do. So Kate's going to this concert tonight, not to just talk about the experience, but we got 2 minutes to kill. And then Mike Felger will join us on the other side of the break. Zach's update. I kind of want to go over to Haight-Ashbury, the Grateful Dead area, and just walk around. And I know there's not like a carnival or anything over there, but I don't really want that. I've been in this friggin' media center all week. I kind of just want to walk around a cool neighborhood. So I might do that tonight after we help Bill tear down the set. Thanks to Flipside for sending us out this week. I'm going to continue to bang you over the head with what a great job they do. Their nightly happy hour from 3 to 6. Their nightly food specials tonight is fish, or chicken. They do a great fish and chicken option. If you're not a fish person, you're allergic to fish, you got a nice big home-cooked meal option on Friday nights. It's not like you need to get a burger or whoever else gets fish. You can get a delicious chicken dinner. They'll even do it half and half. That's what I did last time I was there. Not during Lent because it would have been a sin to get the chicken. But as we approach fish fry season, keep them in mind as your Friday night destination. And maybe, just maybe, the place to watch the game on Sunday. They open early. They have breakfast, the mimosas, the bloodies, the screwdrivers, bunch of TVs. It's a great place to watch a sporting event like Sunday's matchup between the Patriots and the Seahawks. We'll talk to a man who covers the Patriots, but mostly about Wisconsin sports. Michael Felger, 98.5 The Sports Hub, is going to join us on the other side of Zach's update. 2 minutes, no commercials. We'll be right back at Radio Row.
This is the Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Wisconsin is headed to Indiana today. It's where they're going to take on the Hoosiers tomorrow. Badgers have won 7 of their last 8 games, including 3 of them on the road. But the competition going to take a step up in the coming weeks with games against teams that are ahead of them in the net rankings. Winning on the road isn't easy in the Big Ten. Coach Greg Gard says the venue doesn't matter, only the play does.
I don't make a big deal out of it, and then it won't be a big deal to them. Right? I think if you make a big deal about something, where you're traveling, who you're playing when, it just becomes bigger than it really needs to be. When you're flying around on private planes, eating nice meals and playing basketball, it's a first world problem if you have to complain about it.
Going to be Badgers and Hoosiers tomorrow. Wisconsin comes in 8-3 in Big Ten play. Indiana 6-6. Tip is at 11 a.m. Terry, the Bucks, they're back in action tonight as Indiana comes to Fiserv Forum. Milwaukee was somewhat busy at the trade deadline, though the biggest news was the team deciding not to trade Giannis Antetokounmpo. The two-time MVP posted on X after the news broke, saying, quote, "Legends don't chase, they attract." Giannis is still battling a calf injury, won't play tonight. Tip is at 7.
At a time when children are in crisis, the Kids Mental Health Foundation envisions a future where mental health is a vital part of growing up, and support starts with all of us. At home, at school, at practice, everywhere kids are. The Kids Mental Health Foundation is the leading organization promoting mental health for children in the U.S. and has free tools and information developed by experts.
Having those resources is the same as the CPR class to me. We're trying to save a life here.
Check out kidsmentalhealthfoundation.org to get started.
Well, the Packers continuing to fill out their coaching staff. One spot still open. Quarterbacks coach Jordan Love told reporters this week he'd like to give his opinion on who that will be, though ultimately he says it's going to be up to Coach Matt LaFleur. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heilprin.
Wisco Sports Show, hour number 2. Appreciate Zach's update. The latest, the Bucks back in action tonight. Feels like a million years since we've had a Badger game, which is actually okay because we've been broadcasting out here at the Super Bowl, and we did work in a little Brewers talk last night. We've worked in some Bucks talk with the trade deadline, but the thing out here is football, and I want to have some Packers discussions this hour. Michael Felger, 98.5 The Sports Hub, is going to join us. And if you've missed any of our conversations, Marshall Newhouse, TJ Ward were both great last night. Sam Brookhouse and all the Sumer guys. Solomon Wilcots is a Radio Row legend and an institution. So if you missed that, the podcast available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course the Wisco Sports Zone app, which is the most convenient place to get all the podcasts and all the live streams for all of our shows and stations on the Wisco Sports Zone network. So download that thing. It's really, really handy. That's the way to follow and listen if you need to catch up after the fact. I do want to get into the Packers and a couple little news and notes, as we were out kicking around last night, and we went to Cigars with the Stars. In fact, if you're watching on the live stream here, I can show you a picture. This picture is Peter Bukowski of the Locked On Packers podcast, myself, Kate Fox, Robert Griffin III, and what I assume is his wife, girlfriend, I don't know. It's maybe the most cursed image I've ever seen. We're all dressed different. All of us are dressed incorrect except for Kate and the woman with RG3. RG3's in a Lakers jersey. Peter looks like he's going to work at a bank. Respectfully, he looks good. He's just not like sexy party. He also has a barefoot wine tote in his hand because that's what they were giving away at the party. However, that doesn't make it look any better in the picture. And I was not told we were going to a formal affair. And then Kate went home early in the day and said, "I'll get you a change of clothes," which she forgot, which is fine. It's not her responsibility to dress me. It's just I thought that she was going to give me a change of clothes. So I have camouflage pants on and a black hoodie. This picture, I think this is a cursed image. It's so cursed that I might have to delete it off my phone. So if I have to see it, you have to see it. I threw it up on the live stream. I'm going to post a compilation on Instagram and on Twitter, both if you don't follow me, just Grant Bills or at Wisco Grant on Twitter as well, and the show streams there. I gave you some Sam Darnold thoughts, some Super Bowl thoughts. I think Seattle will win. I think it's not a foregone conclusion at all. I've heard folks describe this game as, well, not describe this game, but they've said the real Super Bowl is the NFC Championship game. And while those might have been the two best teams, I don't think that makes it the Super Bowl. I think that means that maybe those were the two best teams. And now in the Super Bowl, I think New England has a very legit chance to knock off Seattle. I expect Seattle to win, but New England has found ways and made plays. I think their D-line is underrated. I don't know that Milton Williams has been talked about quite enough this year. I think there are both over-discussed and under-discussed points with the Patriots. I think Drake May and his performance this postseason has been under-discussed. He hasn't been good. He's actually been quite bad for stretches. But yet the concern is, Sam Darnold. What if Sam Darnold plays bad? Well, what if Drake May just continues to play the way that he's played? He's been bad this postseason, and I feel like the concern is more about Sam Darnold when he's actually played like an elite level. I think he's more of a bus driver than folks have said, and not as much of a passenger to maybe quote, the Charles Barkley lingo in the past. So I think it's a great game. I don't think the NFC Championship game was the actual Super Bowl, as we've heard from many of our guests and contributors to our shows this week. How about a guest? This is a perfect way to wrap up the week. I love Friday on Radio Row because it starts to empty out in here, and it's exciting, but I do like when it gets a little bit quieter and more relaxing. Mike Felger is back, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Thank you for doing this again.
Of course.
It's very, very appreciated. Sorry to bother you.
It's a treat for me. I get to scratch my Wisconsin sports itches.
You're a Milwaukee guy.
I'm born and raised in Milwaukee. Yes, I am.
These are your teams. But
these are my teams.
Now you're the Boston, voice. That was a good profile in the Boston Herald, by the way. What an authority you are in the city. Everyone turns to you.
Okay.
Or at least that's what's written. That's just what was written.
Yeah.
But I like when we have a couple of minutes so you can apply that to your Wisconsin teams. First of all, this has to be the easiest week ever for you. How many times have you come out here and it's the Patriots in the Super Bowl previewing this has to be muscle memory for you by now.
So this is my I covered the 96 game against the Packers for the Boston Herald, but they had me covering the Packers because they knew I was so familiar with the team. So
yeah,
96. I mean, this is like my 20-something Super Bowl. Like we go every year whether the Pats are in or not, but this is the Pats' 11th. Is that right? Does that sound right? Is it 11?
Well, you were on the beat for a few,
so
and then you've been on the
on
radio
the beat,
for a bunch more.
So I've been to every Patriots Super Bowl, either as a beat writer for the newspaper or doing a radio show.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 9. This is 10. So this is the 11th with the Patriots. 11th.
So this is muscle memory.
It is muscle memory.
You do an excellent job. A lot of shows run out of things you guys find the little things and you build on it. And I guess you have to if you preview a Super Bowl every few years.
Just aggravate Patriots fans. It's very easy.
Well,
they're so easy to tweak. And so you just tweak a Patriots fan and that keeps the ball rolling.
Well, let's do that. Let's talk about the schedule because that's aggravated them. And as a Packers fan, I want to be jaded. I don't want to say, well, if the Packers have that schedule, they win 14 games. But I think part of the problem with the LaFleur Packers is they don't. I think they would have won 10.
Right.
And then they would have been on the road to start the playoffs and they wouldn't have.
It's so true.
And why is that?
There is an attention to detail that is lacking with the Packers. And it has, I mean, I want to say even into the end of the Holmgren years, where there's just, I think I want to blame Aaron Rodgers. I want to blame Brett Favre. I want to blame Mike McCarthy. I want to blame Matt LaFleur. There is just something about the reason the Patriots, one of the reasons they went to so many Super Bowls is because they had so many damn home games in the playoffs, so many buys. So, they'd get a first round bye. They'd play some bum team in the divisional round. And the next thing you know, it's like, before you even know what happened, they're in the AFC Championship game playing one playoff game against a horrible team at home.
Yep.
It happened year after year after year. And you know why it happened year after year after year? Because they won all those regular season games they were supposed to win. Because they had a good attention to detail and were buttoned down organization and team. And I think this Patriots team had the same thing. They had an easy-ass schedule, but they took care of business. Well, the Packers, when they get those easy schedules, I think there's always 2 or 3 games where business losing that game, but they just can't keep it together because I think it's something with coach quarterback.
Okay.
As brilliant as Favre and Rodgers were, I think there was something lacking there in terms of their makeup. And I think the coaches are the same way. They're just McCarthy and LaFleur are just too buried in the play sheet, too buried in their offense. All they're doing is thinking about the drive starter on the next drive, or their next third down play,
the script,
and all these other loose ends just get left by the wayside.
Yeah,
And it's a frustrating thing to see with the Packers because I think a lot of years they've just been more talented than they've shown, but they lack that top to bottom button down nature. And I'm getting a little sick of the offensive coaches. I think they should have moved on from LaFleur.
Well, that was my next question. I underestimated Vrabel because I watched the Patriots. It's like every little clock thing and it's like maybe the folks who think the head coach's head is buried in the play sheet, maybe they're onto something.
Yeah,
I mean that was overrated, but maybe it's not.
That last drive or second to last drive in Chicago in this playoff game is just so typical. It's so typical of what I see from the Packers on a year in, year out basis. And, Matt LaFleur, he has a beautiful offense. I think it's lovely. And I think he does a good job getting guys open. And I have nothing. I think his offense is terrific. And I think his play calling is pretty good. I think it's really good. But here you are needing to run off clock with 4 minutes to go in a playoff game in Chicago.
Yep.
And you're calling timeouts on offense. You're taking delay of game penalties out of your timeout on offense. You're throwing outside the numbers where guys are running out of bounds. Was it Dobbs on that great one-handed catch?
Of course.
Runs out of bounds.
Yep.
And then I think the very next play is an out to someone. I can't remember who. The rookie maybe?
Reed.
Right,
the one he
Reed or right out of bounds. So, they complete a couple balls down the field on that drive, but they're running out of bounds. And then you don't force Chicago to burn a timeout, giving them extra timeouts. And it's just over and over and over again, I think, because I don't think Matt LaFleur has, get your head out of the play sheet and just figure out the game.
Think the game.
Get someone in your ear upstairs. A lot of these coaches have a guy upstairs that does all that. Well, they have your guy upstairs do it and listen to it. And the Patriots did that amazingly under Belichick. They're doing it under Vrabel. And I don't feel like the Packers get that with these last two coaches.
You've done a really good job in your coverage of this team. Talk about the importance of home games, especially if you're an outside team. I think I was talking with Kate, who produces Bill's show in the midday with me, about you don't understand, when I was little and before, it was a foregone conclusion the Packers were winning at Lambeau in the postseason. It was, you could write it in pen, and it's not that way anymore. And I don't know why.
Well,
why?
Favre pissed that one away. That started with Favre.
Did he get soft?
Yep.
Okay.
And I don't think at the end of the day, Favre really cared about winning. He wanted to win. He was happy to win. But I don't think it ate him up inside when he didn't.
Sure.
I just don't think he was that guy. I think he played that way. In the 2007 NFC Championship game against the Giants, I just think he got cold and sick of being out there. So he just flung the ball away because that's what he did. Because at the end of the day, I wonder if he really, truly gave a crap about winning. He wanted to, which is not to say he didn't want to win. Of course he wanted, but there's a difference between Tom Brady had to win.
Yes, it pains me to admit, but
he had to, and he'd do anything that it took to win, because if he didn't win, he couldn't live with himself or sleep at night. And I don't think I'm confident in saying Favre and Rodgers did not have that.
And in different ways, I think Favre, he's
and Jordan Love, I don't even know what he has, and I like Jordan Love. I don't think he's the problem, but my God. Can I see some emotion?
Yeah, we take these calls all the time.
Can I get something out of him?
Yeah.
Can I see him talk to his teammates? Does he ever talk to anyone on the sidelines?
No. LaFleur goes to his iPad. Jordan Love goes to the bench.
It's
we get a lot of calls on it.
Good grief. You should.
It's a lot of aesthetic stuff, which I thought for a long time didn't matter. Guys, who cares? He's on the iPad. It doesn't matter. Who cares? Jordan Love is quiet. It doesn't matter. But then the more I watch these losses, maybe it does.
Well, these are human beings.
Yep.
Okay. And there's something that you have to bring into these games, because it's still human beings, young men playing emotional sports. So there's got to be some sort of connection, human connection, that, oh God, LaFleur on the iPad when the defense is out on the field, oh my God, guy, you're the head coach. Maybe you could watch something and see what the opposing offense is doing, since you're good at it, and impart that to your defensive coordinator. I don't know. But yeah, that's so right. LaFleur goes to the iPad and Jordan Love just sits on the bench by himself. It's so optically it looks bad, but it also represents something. They're just they're missing something. And it bothers me. It bothers me greatly.
It bothers us. It's been bothers our
and I told you 2 years ago they should have traded Giannis, but go ahead.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you about the Bucks next, and I don't want to get bogged down.
They waited way too long. Way too long.
Let me ask you this.
And then kept adding? Like, well, what is Miles Turner doing here?
This way. Let me ask it this way. Is there a team in professional sports doing a better job wasting everybody's time than the Bucks?
No, I can't think of one.
Doc is the coach.
Like,
they're not even developing
they're
anyone.
Spending through the nose on the coach. They're spending through the nose on the roster. They epically suck. The superstar obviously doesn't want to be here. He's booing you people. So it's like how much more do you need to see? What are you looking to salvage? And they should have been, if they were smart, they just should have bit the bullet, taken the hit publicly that I'm sure they would have gotten, and traded him earlier than later. He was never long for Milwaukee. Just stop it.
Well, he's had a good run here. I won the title. They gave it some cracks, didn't get over the hump again.
No, I love him, and I love what he did. I never thought the Bucks would win a championship. Again, in my life, I was 1 year old when they won in 1970, so it doesn't really count. I never thought they'd win in my practical lifetime. So great. I love the guy, but it was pretty clear by, I don't know, the second year after the championship, they weren't winning again. It was clear the second Damian Lillard got here, that wasn't working.
Yeah, that wasn't it.
It never worked. It never worked like once. It never worked for one game that I was able to see. Did those two play well together or play off each other? That never worked. And so at some point, you just got to say, okay, it's not happening. You're not going to keep them and move on. I'm sorry. So I'm just now unloading all my.
This is what I love. This is what my audience last year, people weren't familiar with. They're like, that guy was great. It's like, we don't have a lot of personalities like that in the Midwest. That's
you're too nice. I know.
I know. I would be very, if I was Giannis, I'd be very hesitant to be like, I need to go somewhere to win because I can't see it happening. You know what I mean? Well, first of all, he can't stay healthy, but he's a weird player to build around.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. I'm talking just about from the Bucks perspective.
Yeah.
Like they should have traded him. They've waited too long, but still, I'm kind of glad they didn't just do it at the deadline to do it. Get the best offer and make sure it's the best offer. And if the best offer, you have to wait a half a season to get it, might as well get it.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with them passing at this particular deadline, but he should have been traded, if not last offseason, the offseason before. And it's, you're going to have to go into one of these long NBA winters where it's like 7 years of suck.
We talk college basketball instead.
With your first round picks and whoever else's first round picks, and that's what it's going to be for 7 years. But just get on with it already.
We got to pay attention to the lottery balls. And I've never cared to do that. I want to ask you about baseball because we talked about the Brewers last year. I'm curious, your sports personality. Do you have a soft spot for the Brewers in a way that maybe you don't for our other teams?
Huge.
Okay, because
I'll tell you that the Brewers I'm not nearly as angry about as the other two.
Yep.
The Packers make me angry because I think they kind of underachieve.
Oh, this year at least. Well, constantly, but this year, time.
I just think on balance. Listen. As much as I will blast Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers for their makeup, they were two of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And for each of them to win only once, for Rodgers to only go only once, like that's an underachievement on their part. That's an underachievement on the organization's part. So I just think big picture, they underachieve. They should be doing more with the talent at that position. Now the Brewers is sort of opposite. But if you want me to get on them a little bit, it's how do you pronounce their owner's name?
Atanasio. Mark Atanasio.
Does he lean into the small market thing a little bit more than he ought to? In other words, he could spend more. He could. I mean, do you have to? And look, their baseball people are so good.
Yeah,
they'll probably win this Peralta trade, like they won the. Who was the closer? The lefty
Williams or Hader.
The Hader trade.
Burns.
But like they because their baseball guys are so good. From was it Snyder that went to the Mets? Stearns, sorry.
And now Arnold.
I'm bad with names. So, but those guys, the nerds that the Brewers have are high-end nerds. And they're good. So I'm sure they'll win these trades and get good players out of it. But could Atanasio be spending a little bit more?
Probably a little bit more. I was talking with a baseball fan at a party. It was in Chinatown somewhere. It was a Dodgers guy, and he was like, "It's terrible they traded Freddie. It's awful for baseball." And I think you watch the Brewers a little bit. You understand, like
he's not an ace.
Freddie, they didn't trade Jacob deGrom.
Right.
He was good. The Red Sox probably would have been happy to have him. He would have been a nice piece. But come on.
So I wasn't outraged because I knew he was gone. Like it was obvious. I'm just kind of happy they kept him at the last trade deadline. Yeah. I think it's obvious who they're not going to pay, and they've been pretty good at getting out ahead of it and getting returns, and I'm okay. But it goes then to the ownership level. People complain about the Dodgers and how much they spend and all of that. And I don't think that's the problem with baseball. I think the problem with baseball is not the top of the league. It's the bottom of the league.
Yeah.
These small market teams that don't pay, collect revenue checks, and really don't exert themselves or don't extend themselves to compete. And the Brewers do, because, again, their baseball people are so smart. But I think Atanasio, leans a little too much on the small market thing. Like, you could be doing more.
He gets away with it.
And
Keep winning.
And the fans let him get away with it. Like, you've been knocking at the door now for better part of half a decade. Been one of the best. I don't know if you looked at regular season wins the last 5 years, the Brewers have to be top 3 or 4. I mean,
well, Atanasio reminds you in spring training. He'll always point it out.
Does he?
Well, when he's criticized about pay, because the reporters are always like, when are you going to maybe push a little bit more?
It's time to cash in. It's it's time to get it over the threshold.
And he'll point that out. Mike Felger, I was going to ask you this last year. I completely spaced it. You're a dead guy, and you have to understand how counterintuitive that is to anyone who just knows you on the radio.
Yeah.
Because that band is against everything.
Yeah, Deadhead's supposed to be hippy, dippy, lovey,
grab
soft.
ass,
No,
shit, like all these things that you hate. That's their music.
No, I know, but I treat the Dead like I do sports. I come out of shows and I complain about them. And I bitch about what they're playing or not playing or how they played. And there's an edge to it. It's actually very similar.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite year?
Favorite year for the Dead?
Yes.
The late 80s is when I started. My first show was June of 1987 at Alpine Valley.
Yep.
So those late 80s years, not that I kept track of this at the time or knew exactly what was going on, but in hindsight, it's when Garcia had cleaned up. He had his coma in 86. He was just, a really bad opiate heroin addict, and it all resulted in a diabetic coma in 1986. He came out of it and straightened out a little bit, straightened out enough, and cleaned up. And so there was a run there from like the end of 86 through 91, where is when I saw the bulk of I saw 60 shows when Garcia was still alive.
I didn't know you saw that many.
Yeah, and I've seen at least another 75 after he passed. Mayer saved the band.
Dead and Co was great. I saw Dead and Co a bunch at Wrigley.
John Mayer's brilliant.
Can you put out a new album, by the way? I like to use the bumpers on your show.
I like John Mayer as a solo artist too. I know it's soft, but
Nice.
I'm soft. I like adult contemporary music. What do I want? What can I tell you? But anyway, that late 80s run by the Dead was great because Garcia was in a good place.
Thank you for the time, Mike Felger. I look forward to catching up on your show. I missed Bedard on Tuesday. I'm going to listen on the plug.
Okay, thanks again.
Was he calmer this week?
He was, but you never know.
That's too bad.
If he gets a little hungry or a little antsy, he's a little tired, he gets cranky, and he takes out on us, which is good.
Mike Felger, appreciate it. This
Okay.
is great. Enjoy the game on
Grant,
Sunday.
thank you.
All right, we'll be back just a couple of minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Last night here on Radio Row. Thanks to Flipside Pub and Grill. Appreciate Mike Felger from the Sports Hub stopping by. I didn't realize he saw that many Dead shows. Good God. And I like Mayor as well, but I am soft as well. I'm thinking I might try to go down to Haight-Ashbury tonight. We'll see. I got to help Bill take down the set, and I know we might want to do some things, but I selfishly might cart myself down there to see some Dead stuff before leaving San Francisco. If you have any reaction, some really good Packers conversation, a Brewers point, a Bucks point as well. Any reaction to that? I will take your texts. 608-321-1670. Soul Surfer says, I like adult contemporary music. What are you going to do about it? You know, dude, I've been listening to Matchbox 20, and I don't know that I ever listened to it ironically, but I need to make it clear. I'm listening completely and totally unironically. Like Mad Season has been one of my most listened to songs the last month or two. I mean, Unwell is just, I just feel like I'm young again. The early 2000s, just outstanding. I like adult contemporary music. What are you going to do about it? He says. Soul Surfer. That's part of the interview. I'm glad that I read him correctly because I am one and the same. I do have a soft spot for the Brewers in a way that maybe I don't. I certainly don't for the Packers. And I think it comes from a place of underachieving. It's how do I want to word this? It's really easy to dislike the person or the group or the team that's been given everything and had great opportunities and can't get it done. Like, it's really easy to get jaded and frustrated with that guy or that thing. It's hard for me to get frustrated with the Brewers, who are at the bottom of their league, which is a league with less parity than football, with no salary cap, with a lot less money, and they're constantly pushing 90, 95 wins. So they lose in the playoffs, and they don't always spend money, as much money as they could, and they trade guys away. But guess what? Like, it's just a lot more difficult for me to be mad at them than it is to be mad at the Packers. Like, if the Packers had always had bad quarterbacks, if they were the Bears or if they were the Browns, or you know what I mean? Like, if they were one of those teams, but they were finding a way to hire good coaches and draft good D lines, and they had good play, but look, the quarterback gods never smiled on them. And that was our team. I think I would have a different relationship. I'd have a different viewing experience and a fan experience with that team, because I would say, look, the sports gods have not been kind to you. The sports sun has not shined on you. Like, you just can't, when we think we draft the right quarterback, we don't. When we get rid of the quarterback, he's good. When we make a big trade, he stinks. Like, you just can't get quarterback right. But you know what? You're smart, and you hire good coaches, and you have good scheme, and you're good in the trend. Like, that's the Brewers. The Packers are the kid that's born on third base and given all the money and all the opportunities, but can't really ever seem to get it figured out. And I know that analogy misses a little bit, because in order to be born on third base, like in order for the Packers to be, they have to identify and draft the quarterbacks. Yes, they have to do that. But I think other teams were complicit in Brett Favre being in Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers getting drafted in Green Bay. Jordan Love was the 27th pick. The Packers were the team with the stones to take him, even though they had their guy. So yes, they get credit for that. They get credit for being on third base, but it is maddening to watch the person who's at third base who just can't get home. And Brewers are like, you understand this. There's nothing worse than the Brewers have a runner on third base with less than 2 outs. You can't get it done. Like, it's maddening in a literal sense, in a baseball sense, and in a sports proverbial sense. It's maddening. So with Mike, like, that's why I think I have a soft spot for the Brewers in a way that I don't with the Bucks, who have had Giannis and play in a much more balanced league, even though there's some limitations for small markets in the NBA. I get it. I have a softer spot and more patience with the Brewers than I do with the Packers, because I've seen the Packers be on the doorstep in 2011, in 2014, in 2020, in 2021, and they just can't smell it. They just can't, they just won't grab it. And it would be one thing, again, if they didn't have the quarterback and they were the plucky underdog that was just you just give them credit for being there. And God, if they break through, it's going to be great, but you're still able to kind of see the appeal and to see the success. But that's not them. And Felger, if you're familiar with his work, doesn't really have a soft spot for anyone or anything. But you can hear when he talks about the Brewers, I think we all have a soft spot for that team. And I also think they've earned that. That hasn't just been given to them. They've earned it with some of the success they've had, even though they haven't made or won a World Series. Just some thoughts. We can revisit this. We'll take a break, kind of reset the show. Why don't we get Mike Clemens over at the table? Because he's been hanging around. He's been covering the teams this week. He caught up with Amon Green and Bill earlier today, so certainly some Packers things to discuss, as well as I know Mike has been reconnecting with his football scribes and swapping stories and trading rumors and factoids about different teams. So we'll lean on Mike Clemens and tap on him. He'll join us at the table coming up in a few minutes. Thanks to Flipside Pub and Grill. Food and fun without the franchise. They're right across from Menards on the north side. You can't miss it. Right down the hill from the stoplight, La Crosse and West, right there on the, I won't say the main drag, but right around the way from the main drag. Stop by for a Fish Friday night as a way to say, hey, Flipside, we really enjoyed Grant's shows at Radio Row. That was really cool. We're here to celebrate Super Bowl weekend. So get in there. And of course, Saturday, Sunday, the place to be as well. Breakfast, and screwdrivers and bloodies and champagne in the morning, that whole thing too. But why not? Why not start Friday night with a fish fry this evening? We'll be back just a couple of minutes. Mike Clemens is going to join us at the table. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Starting to wind down the week here in San Francisco. A couple segments left. Radio Row. Big convention center, and it's starting to empty out. I love it. It's a little quieter. There's less. Greg Cosell used the word glad handing. I think that's an excellent, seemingly old-timey phrase that I'm going to work into my repertoire. There's just less people who all think they're the you-know-what, getting together with other people who think they're the you-know-what. And I like this show. I'd like to think we do a good job. We get some okay guests, but it's like there's no Midwest humility out here, folks. There's no self-deprecation. I'm probably self-deprecating to a fault, but that's because I'm around all these other people. Some of these people, these celebrities, it's like, man, you're not all that. You played once, but you're not. It's just, it can be a little bit of an obnoxious environment. Is that bad for me to? Can I admit that? That's not bad for me to admit, right? So now as it starts to get quiet, I'm a big fan. And I think tonight I'm just going to go stroll around the streets of San Francisco, although I should probably be intentional about the ones that I'm strolling around. You can end up on some streets with interesting characters. Let's just say that has been my experience traveling around the Bay Area over the last week. So we'll head back tomorrow morning and we'll regroup back in studio on Monday. I'm very excited to get back to taking your phone calls and back into the normal swing of things with our guests, and ready to be back in Wisconsin for sure. Rico and Lacrosse with a nice correction from earlier on. We were talking about international games and how the NFL is now going to play a game in Melbourne or Melbourne, however, I don't know, in Australia. And I what I was pointing out on the show, and I couldn't remember, is I saw a post or a tweet from the NFL about how there's going to be a game in Rio de Janeiro, and that's going to be the first game ever there in Brazil. And I'm like, didn't they just play in Rio, or am I misremembering? And Rico said that was in Sao Paulo. So, okay, good point. So correct. So now we're going to Australia. There will be a game in Paris this year. There will be a game in Australia this year. Okay. Just what everyone wanted, just what everyone was looking for. And I understand the fans globally love the NFL, and there's, and I want those fans to be able to experience it. Bill on his show had one of the, I don't know if it's, he's British, he's from the UK. I don't remember his affiliation, if he was one of the UK or the British, the English NFL, if they do their broadcast crews. Again, I don't get to hear a lot of the interviews because as soon as I get someone over to Bill's show, I'm off looking for the next person. I gotta keep the pipeline flowing. And I think there's a huge fan base over there. And he was telling us that, a legacy team, fan owned. There's a lot of Packers fans in Ireland, and that's great. There's also like a lot of Man U and Chelsea fans over here, and yet we're not toting those teams over here all the time. Like, if you're a fan of the Prem, first of all, you tell everyone. That's how you know that someone's a fan of the Prem, is because they'll tell you. But you get up early on the weekends and you watch, or you take a trip over there. We don't cart those teams all over the globe. I'm sure they do some events. I don't know. Again, I don't watch it. No shame if you do. And if you do, I'm well aware because you tell everyone, I'm watching the Prem. You got plans Sunday morning? Sorry, I can't do anything. I got to go watch the Prem. I'm not anti-soccer. Maybe I'm anti-soccer fan. I don't know. It's an American sports league. And I'm not trying to hog it's America and America's best. I don't want anything to do with those other countries. That's not what it is. I wonder, as the NFL just keeps taking bigger and bigger bites and reaching more, I do question at one point the product starts to cheapen or the experience starts to give fans a certain ick. It's like, how much is too much? And at what point does the juice no longer match the squeeze? Does that make sense? And this is how it works. Like, if you're not growing, you're shrinking. So leagues need to find a way to grow and make more money. And I think the NFL has been better than the NBA, better than Major League Baseball at exactly that. Growing, bringing in more money, raising players' salaries, and the players all benefit because of that, right? Same with the NBA. It's like, you guys go play games in the offseason in China or whatever, these broadcast deals. It's like, well, that brings in more money, which means the salaries keep going up. Well, I don't want to play 82 games. Okay. Do you want to, you want your pay to decrease? Like, that's what these leagues have to do. It's just how many different countries and how many, like, are we going to have a point where every team's playing an international game every year? I don't want that. We're all already moving into these sterile, just characterless stadiums, which is another thing I would have loved to discuss with Mike Felger, because that's something that he rants and raves about. One of my favorite lines in sports radio I've heard these last few months has been from Felger saying all of these games are headed inside and onto the internet. And I think that's true. And I don't mind watching games on the internet. I do mind having to pay more to watch them on the internet. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like to get a subscription. Here's what I hate is when it's a one-off. Like, it's Thanksgiving Day just on Netflix. It's like, well, at least on Amazon Prime, if I subscribe to Prime, I'm getting a game every week. I'm getting a game every week for the entire year. Plus, Prime is a practical subscription in a way. You get more than just the Prime Video. You get the shopping or whatever. Again, I don't online shop, but I know there's lots of benefits with the shipping and the stuff. Prime. Like Netflix or Peacock, it's like, okay, so there's one Saturday night game at the end of the year. You got to get Peacock to watch it. And it's not like Amazon where you get other benefits to subscribing. It's just you get to pay to watch this game. And then your team no shows and doesn't try against Baltimore. It's like, okay, could I please have my money back? It would be nice to have my money back after watching my team not try and paying a one-off. I mean, it's basically a pay-per-view, isn't it? With Netflix or Peacock, again, for the one-offs. Amazon Prime is different. That's a package. And I weirdly might prefer that to NFL Network, because NFL Network, it's like, well, you could get NFL Plus, you got to get cable. Like if we're gonna do a once weekly thing, and this has been the way the NFL's operated forever. It's not like the Thursday night game always used to be on, free broadcast TV. Amazon makes more sense to me, and I like it more than the NFL Network. But other than that, like, I'll get Netflix just for Christmas Day, and then the whole day just gets to be one big infomercial for Stranger Things and all of the shows that Netflix has. Peacock has some okay talent. Some okay content. It's just getting more expensive. It used to be cheap. Peacock used to be pretty darn cheap. You get college basketball on Peacock, I guess, as well. I'm wearing a little thin on the international experience. Comes a little bit too much. I'll watch a noon game, a 3 game, a Sunday night game. I'm not going to complain if there's one on at 8 a.m., but I wonder how much we need it, and I wonder how much we really need games in Paris, Melbourne, Rio. Well, there's fans across the pond. Well, then they can come over here where the sport is based. I mean, like, come to Lambeau and take a tour. We're not carting the Packers and the Browns over to Berlin every year. Just like we don't bring Chelsea and Hammerschlagen, Flin, or whatever those Prem leagues are called. West Ham. We're not bringing them over here once a year for their fans. You got to go over there and get up on Sunday and watch and tell everyone, because that's how, again, fans of the Prem operate. Yeah. I'm a fan of Arsenal. All right, enough of that. Coyote Mike says, Grant, based on everything we've heard and seen dealing with the Packers and their 2026 schedule, the upcoming season is going to be immensely interesting. They always are, Coyote Mike. Every schedule, every year, because even if the schedule was easy, as we discussed with Felger, they're losing more games than they should be. That was evident this year. And I don't think their schedule was particularly hard or easy one way or another, but they shouldn't have lost to the Browns, shouldn't have lost to the Panthers, especially at home. The Eagles are one thing, but that game was winnable, and they fumbled it 6-7 ways. I didn't do that intentionally, until losing at the very end. And they had leads in all these second halves. It's like, so you guys are constantly getting to the playoffs. You're constantly having the lead. You're blowing it. You're underachieving. It is a very frustrating viewing experience. All right, we'll take a 3-minute break. We'll come back, wrap up one final segment from Radio Row this week in San Francisco, the Moscone Center. And we're here all thanks to Flipside Pub and Grill. It's fish fry night. That's what I'm thinking about as we take this final break and come back with one more segment next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
One final segment. Thanks to Flipside. It's been a fun week of shows, some good guests. I asked Mike Clemens before our bottom of the hour break, hey, you want to come on and do some segments? He said, yeah. And then he looks back over 2 minutes later. He's like, wait, is it 3? He didn't know what time it was. And I said, well, it's 5:30 Central, but here it's 3 o'clock. And he goes, oh, I got to do a phoner. I'm on the air right now.
He's busy, man.
He's on the radio. So I don't say that to say, so we've settled for Bill. It's just the show is taking a different direction.
I am officially Zippy, the piss boy.
Yeah. First of all, you rode in a Waymo today. Tell me about that experience.
It was
like I'm Carson.
It was a fun experience. You did it last night.
Yeah, it was fun.
But I did it to a different degree.
You did it sober first.
I did it sober, but I did it as if there was a driver there.
Okay.
And talked to him the whole way.
Nice.
And the SOB wouldn't respond.
What a dick.
So I kind of took it out on him.
They speak English?
But, you're going to have to watch the video because it was about 12 minutes of video that's going to be edited down to about 3. And it is quip after quip after quip of what I thought were funny one-liners.
Yeah.
And I got Mike sitting next to me, and Kate's like, okay, be quiet. Let Bill do this. And then Mike's like, no! And then he's screaming out the window, help me, there's no driver in here, to people as we're driving down the street.
Dang it.
I swear to God. There's no driver in here! And just sticking his head out the window like a lunatic. So it was pretty funny. We had a good time. We went down to a seafood place right on the pier at Fisherman's Wharf.
Yep.
It was delicious. One of the best fish fries I've had in a long time.
Really?
Yes. It was wonderful. And I got the small one because we're going to go to dinner later.
Yep.
And so that was an adventure. But now, see, you remember I get car sick.
You do.
If I don't drive. So it was great. We're like, okay, we're down here. This is awesome. And then I went, crap, we got to go back.
Yep.
So I got to do it again after I ate. So I got out of the car and I'm like, we're going to walk slow. And so I said, I got to go to the bathroom. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, you're in there a while, thinking I'm just destroying the place. I'm like, no, I'm actually getting sick. Yeah. So
I'm dizzy.
So I'm a little woozy. And then were you there with us last night when the group from New York approached me at this table we were smoking cigars?
I believe so. Yeah.
They know Tim Duffy, who's the firefighter from New York who rode his Harley into 9/11. They know Tim, and I don't know how they know me, but they knew me and everything about this program.
Cool.
Now, I don't know. It's terrible that I don't know if I've met them before. I recognize faces.
Meet 1,000 people.
But I didn't want to say, hey, where do I know you from?
Yep.
Because they just knew me so well. So one of the guys who's a retired firefighter, he had disability after 9/11, had nothing to do, so he started a podcast, a sports, like just a BS guys podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and looked at it. He's got Jeter, Gretzky, just all these guys.
Yeah.
And granted, it's probably through some type of foundation or connection or whatever. Sure. But he's like, I want you to come on. So I said, okay, I'll come on, because they saw the Favre documentary and
did
said,
good business for you.
Yeah, and they said, we want to get you on and we want to hear some Favre stories. And do you have any Rodgers stories? I said, well, oddly enough, there's a Rodgers documentary coming out that is probably going to be here in the spring. So anyway,
I had a radio guy on, and I don't know if you were maybe you were sitting over there with Mike, who was giving his opinions on, he covered the Patriots in the early 2000s, but was giving his opinions on Favre and Rodgers. Say, you know what? I just don't think that it ate Favre and Rodgers alive when they lost, like it does. Like maybe Favre didn't care as much, or Rodgers. I think they're very different, but it was interesting to hear that commentary, because I remember that story that you or Mike told me of a game where Favre threw a bunch of picks and Holmgren was up his ass.
It was
And
Sherman.
Or it was Sherman.
Sherman.
And he told Sherman, what are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
That was his comment. Sherman just went crazy. He threw an out to driver, he forced it into driver, and it got picked. And instead, I can't remember the receiver, but he had a wide receiver, two wide open, one down the sideline inside the numbers, and the other one on a crossing pattern. And it first of all, it was supposed to be a run, and Favre audibled out. And Sherman was eating his ass for lunch on the sideline, just screaming at him. And that was something that I'd never seen Sherman do because everybody treated Favre with kid gloves. And Favre looked back, said something, and kind of like tilted his head like, yeah, and then kept walking. So I always wanted to know what he said. And that's the night that Brett, they retired his number, we did an event at the K Center over in Green Bay, which is their convention center. And I don't know, they had like 800 or 1,000 people there to see it. And it was me and Brett on stage. And
I've seen the pictures.
So, yeah, and there's a great video, by the way. If you ever Google it, something about Brett Favre and John Madden's story, almost killed John Madden. Oh, my God, go listen to the story. It's hilarious. But it was, I asked him, I said, what'd you say to Sherman? Do you remember that? He goes, oh, I remember that. And he said, he chewed my ass, and I just kept walking and let him chew. And then I turned around and I said, what are you going to do about it? And I went over and sat on the bench and came back after that and did my thing. But they ended up losing the game. I think it was like 23-17 or something like that.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Like, changed the call of the line of scrimmage, targeted the wide receiver that it was his favorite.
Right. Yep.
It's funny how many parallels there are.
Yeah. I've always said it's so ironic because the reason Aaron does his presser at his locker is because Favre did it at the podium. And he always said, I will never be like that because of the way he treated me, because what I went through as a rookie. And, I will never do that. And he treated Jordan Love better.
I think there were there were lots of differences between the two, but there were some.
But ultimately, they became the same prima donna, and Rodgers became Favre 2.0.
Well, do you think any quarterback, no matter how they're wired, is going to?
Yes.
I'm sure there were people in New England who thought that of Brady and Stafford in LA with some of these things.
Manning was always a guy, never changed from the day he walked through the door to the day he left. He was always a guy that I'm going to study, you're going to study with me, and I'm going to bring you up to my level. That was always Manning's way. Same with Brady. He always had that level of intensity. We're going to go get it. I think what happens along the way is you realize that you now have a say. And when you feel you have a say, you feel you have ownership, which is good in one hand, because then you feel like whatever goes wrong is also your fault.
Yeah.
But unless, of course, you have an ego that won't allow you to accept responsibility, and you can never say, I'm sorry, well, then it's everybody else's fault but yours.
And all the good stuff is because of you.
Correct.
It's interesting how these quarterbacks, when they're in one place for so long, Cowherd's talked about this in Green Bay. You're bigger than the team because there's no owner.
Massive.
You're the biggest thing in town. Like it is interesting, the human person, because I think Favre and Rodgers are so different.
Yeah.
And yet you see some of these same things that kind of presented.
A lot of the same traits. But you get a guy, say, like Stafford, who won the MVP last night.
Yep.
He's got a Super Bowl in his back pocket. Very humble. Kids are on stage. Very likable guy, short of when the girl fell backwards off the stage at the celebration and she ended up broke her back, and he laughed at her, and I crucified him for that. But yeah, I mean, there's some quarterbacks out there that are just good dudes. And there's others that are good dudes who turn out to be Jags if they get a lot of fame, success. I mean, Marino, total Jag.
Yep.
Total Jag. Not a fan of his at all. He was that way. He was very much an ego-driven guy. The problem is some of these guys, when they play this long, they feel like they are even as old as the coach.
Yep.
So I'm the superior to what you are. So, and I get it, plus you're making $50 million a year as opposed to the coach who's making 10.
They're victims of their own success in a way. I've said that of Rodgers.
Yep.
He's seen all his friends that he came up with move on. The game's changed around him.
Yep.
But he probably still wants football to be the way that it was. I didn't expect to get existential about quarterbacks, but that was the thing that was on my mind.
Wayne Larrabee and I had this conversation one time about great ones, and Wayne said, it's some of the great ones believe they're still great, and you got to yank the ball from their hands to say it's time to go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, best guess for last. There's a comment on the live stream from Mike. He says, how did you get Bill Michaels on your show? Good get. I went through his producer. Actually.
I fell down.
Yeah. I went through his people. Yeah. Bill fell down and ended up.
I was here. I just had to run over to FedEx and send the package off to Kristen's dad.
So we get some nice dinner tonight. Well, I guess we'll get packed up, and Kate's going out on the town. So
Kate's heading out. Did she leave already?
She left. She had to go buy an outfit.
Okay. So Kate's going out tonight. She's going to go. I got her into the country concert, which actually Amon Green got her into the country concert. So she's going to go do that. We're going to go pack up and go to bed.
Well, let's have a great night. Great week at Radio Row. Thanks for
It was
having me,
awesome.
Bill.
It
Thanks
was
for
awesome.
being here. All right, I'll talk to you all on Monday. Thanks. Boop.